Captain Park Jisoo stood at the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, surrounded by representatives of 47 species. The hall was beautiful in a cold way. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. Floating platforms held delegates from worlds she had never visited and probably never would. She had given speeches here before, many times over her 30 years of service, but today felt different. Today, the air was heavy with something she could not name. The Rillaran delegate spoke first. His voice was smooth like water over stones. The council recognizes the human representative. You may speak. Jisoo took a breath and looked around the room. She saw faces of every shape and color. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no faces at all, just floating lights that pulsed when they communicated. All of them watched her with the same expression. It was not hatred. It was something worse. It was the look someone gives to a child who does not understand why they cannot sit at the adult table. Honored members of the council, Jisoo began. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this speech many times. 200 years ago, humanity joined this great assembly. We were young. We were eager. We wanted nothing more than to learn from you and to share what we could offer. She paused and let her words settle. In those 200 years, human engineers have built 17 space stations that serve as trade hubs for this council. Human doctors developed the cure for the Velen plague that killed millions. Human terraformers turned dead rocks into living worlds where your children now play under blue skies. A few delegates shifted in their seats. They did not like being reminded of these things. And yet Jisoo continued, her voice growing quieter. We are still treated as guests in a house we helped build. The Morvani delegate made a sound that was almost like laughter. The human speaks of contribution, but contribution does not equal wisdom. Your species lives barely 100 years. You make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. You fight wars among yourselves even now. Jisoo felt anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. This was exactly what they expected from humans. Emotion, instability. We have made mistakes, she admitted. Every species has, but we have also learned. We have grown. We ask only for the same respect given to others. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then the Thalaxian delegate, a creature that looked like a moving shadow, spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The council has reviewed humanity's status. We have decided to implement the stabilization doctrine. Jisoo felt her heart stop. She had heard rumors of this, but she had hoped they were wrong. The stabilization doctrine, the shadow continued, will limit human expansion to current territories. Human fleet sizes will be reduced by 40%. All human colonies will accept oversight councils composed of senior species to ensure proper governance. The words hit Jisoo like physical blows. Oversight councils. They were talking about putting other species in charge of human worlds. They were talking about making humanity a controlled population. This is not acceptable, Jisoo said. Her voice was calm, but inside she was screaming. We have done nothing to deserve this treatment. You have done nothing wrong, the Rillaran delegate agreed. But you are young. You are unpredictable. The galaxy has existed for billions of years. We cannot risk its stability on a species that has only been traveling among the stars for a few centuries. Jisoo looked around the room, searching for any sign of support. She found only one. Counselor Veth, an elderly Rillaran with kind eyes, looked at her with something like sadness. But even he remained silent. I understand, Jisoo finally said. She did not understand, but she knew that nothing she said would change their minds. These decisions had been made long before she entered the room. She walked out of the Grand Assembly Hall with her head held high. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her broken. Outside, Admiral Kim Taiwan was waiting. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. But Jisoo had known him for 20 years. She could see the anger in his eyes. I heard, he said simply. They have already decided, Jisoo replied. They voted before I even spoke. The speech was just for show. Taiwan nodded slowly. Then it is time. Jisoo looked at him sharply. Time for what? The admiral glanced around to make sure they were alone. Then he spoke in a voice so quiet that Jisoo had to lean in to hear him. 50 years ago, when humanity first realized we would never be accepted as equals, some of us began planning. We called it Project Exodus. It was meant to be a last resort. A way out, if things became unbearable. Jisoo stared at him. What kind of project? A way to leave, Taiwan said. Not just this system or this arm of the galaxy. A way to leave entirely. To go somewhere the Council cannot follow. Jisoo felt dizzy. She had dedicated her life to making humanity part of this community. The idea of leaving it entirely seemed impossible. Is it real? She asked. It is real, Taiwan confirmed. And it is almost ready. Jisoo turned and looked back at the Grand Assembly Hall. The crystal pillars glittered in the starlight. It was beautiful. It was also a cage. Not yet, she said finally. We try one more time. We show them what they would lose. Taiwan nodded, but there was something in his eyes. Something that said he already knew how this would end. Across the galaxy, on a dozen human worlds, people went about their daily lives. They did not know what was coming. They did not know that in the halls of power, their fate was being decided by beings who saw them as children at best and threats at worst. But change was coming, and when it arrived, the galaxy would never be the same. The distress signal came at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. It traveled across empty space for 6 hours before reaching the nearest Council relay station. From there, it was forwarded to the proper authorities. Forms were filled out. Committees were notified. Procedures were followed on the frontier world of Kepler 44b. People were dying. Baek Soo-jin had been the colony leader for 12 years. She was a woman of 53, with short gray hair and hands rough from honest work. She had built this colony from nothing. She had planted the first trees, dug the first wells, and delivered the first baby born on this world. Now she watched her people fight for their lives. The raiders had come without warning. Their ships appeared from behind the planet's second moon, weapons already firing. They were Keth pirates, a species known for taking what they wanted and leaving nothing behind. How long until Council ships arrive? Soo-jin demanded, ducking behind a wall, as energy blasts flew overhead. Her communications officer, young man named Cho Soon-hwa, looked at his screen with disbelief on his face. They say the request is under procedural review. Something about proper authorization and oversight requirements. Soo-jin felt something cold settle in her stomach. People are dying and they want paperwork? That is what they said. Soo-jin grabbed a weapon from a fallen defender and checked its charge. Then we save ourselves. The battle lasted 18 hours. 18 hours of fire and blood and screams. The colonists fought with everything they had. They used mining equipment as weapons. They collapsed tunnels on enemy troops. Farmers who had never held a gun learned to shoot straight or die trying. When the Council ships finally arrived, the battle was over. The Keth had been driven off, their remaining forces retreating to lick their wounds. But the cost had been terrible. 200 colonists lay dead. Among them were children. Among them were elderly people who had come to this world hoping to spend their final years in peace. Among them was Cho Soon-woo, who had died protecting the communications array so that others could call for help that never came. The Council representative, a Thalaxian who introduced himself as Observer Krell, surveyed the damage with what might have been disapproval. It was hard to tell with a creature made of shadows. This could have been avoided, Krell said. If the colony had accepted proper oversight, we would have had forces stationed here. Soo-jin stared at him. She was covered in dirt and blood. She had not slept in 20 hours. And now, this shadow creature was telling her that this was her fault. "You called for help," she said. Her voice was dangerously calm. "You took 6 hours to respond. 6 hours while we fought alone. And now you blame us?" "Procedure must be followed," Krell replied. "The safety of the galaxy depends on order." Soo-jin turned away from him. She could not look at him anymore without doing something she might regret. Instead, she walked to the communications array and activated the broadcast system. "This is Baek Soo-jin, leader of the Kepler 44b colony," she said. Her voice carried across every channel, reaching human ships and stations throughout the galaxy. Today, we asked the Council for help. They gave us paperwork. Today, 200 of our people died while bureaucrats discussed procedure. Never again. Never again will we trust our lives to those who see us as problems to be managed. Never again. She cut the transmission and walked away, leaving Observer Krell standing alone among the ruins. News of the attack spread quickly. Human communities everywhere heard about the colony that called for help and received nothing. Anger grew. Resentment that had been building for decades finally found a focus. On the council station, Counselor Veth watched the unfolding crisis with growing worry. He was old, even by Rillaran standards. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species destroy themselves through pride and foolishness. And now he saw the same patterns emerging again. He requested a private meeting with Captain Jisoo. She came. Oh, she was not the same woman he had known before. There was something hard in her eyes now. Something that had not been there a month ago. The council made a mistake, Veth said. I tried to warn them, but they would not listen. A mistake, Jisoo repeated. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. 200 people are dead because of a mistake. I know, and I am sorry. But there is still time to fix things. If you speak to the council, if you show them that humans still want to work together, perhaps we can undo the damage. Jisoo was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head. I've been speaking to the council for 30 years. They do not listen. They never have. They smile and nod and then do exactly what they planned to do all along. Veth leaned forward. Then what will you do? Jisoo met his eyes. I do not know yet. But something is changing. I can feel it. The humans I talk to now are different. They are tired of hoping. Tired of trying. Tired of being treated like children in a galaxy they helped build. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. You were always kind to us, Counselor. I want you to remember that. Whatever happens next, remember that we tried. We tried for 200 years to be part of your community. And you pushed us away. She left, and Veth sat alone in his chambers, feeling older than he had ever felt before. He had seen this before. He knew how it ended. But knowing did not make it any easier to watch. Somewhere in the deep black of space, Admiral Taiwan received a message. It contained only 3 words. Activate Project Exodus. He read the message twice. Then he began making calls. Dr. Choi Yoonji had spent her entire adult life working on something that officially did not exist. She was 62 years old. She had never married. She had no children. Her work was her life. Her work was about to change everything. The laboratory was hidden inside an asteroid that appeared on no maps. The asteroid itself orbited a forgotten star at the edge of human space. No one came here. No one knew it existed. And that was exactly the point. Show me the numbers, Admiral, Taiwan said. He had arrived an hour ago, his face showing nothing of what he felt inside. Yoonji pulled up a display that filled the room with glowing diagrams. The wormhole network is complete. We have 17 anchor points spread across the far reaches of human territory. Each one can create a stable passage lasting up to 6 hours. And the destination? Andromeda Galaxy. We have sent probes through. We have confirmed safe arrival points. The journey takes approximately 4 hours for a standard ship. Taiwan stared at the display. The Andromeda Galaxy was 2.5 million light-years away. At normal speeds, it would take longer to reach than the entire history of human civilization. But with this technology, it was a short trip through a tunnel in space itself. How long have you been working on this? He asked. I joined the project 28 years ago, Yoonji replied. But the project itself began 50 years before that. 3 generations of scientists have given their lives to this work. And the council knows nothing? Yoonji smiled. It was not a happy smile. They think we are too primitive to develop stable wormhole technology. They never thought to look. In another part of human space, Oyuna sat in a small room, surrounded by screens. She was young, only 31, but she was one of the best communication specialists humanity had ever produced. Her job was to listen. to intercept signals that the Council thought were secure. What she heard made her blood run cold. "Captain Jisoo," she said into her communicator, "I have something you need to hear." Jisoo arrived within the hour. She listened to the recording with a face that grew more still with each passing minute. The voices belonged to council members, high-ranking ones. They spoke of humanity as if discussing a pest problem. "The humans grow restless," one voice said. "The incident at Kepler 442b has united them in ways we did not expect. And then we accelerate the containment plan," another voice replied. "Quarantine their systems. Restrict their travel. Cut them off from the wider galaxy until they learn their place. And if they resist, then we demonstrate why the elder races have survived for millions of years. We show them that their little weapons and their short lives mean nothing against true power." The recording ended. Yuna looked at Jisoo with fear in her eyes. "They are going to trap us," she whispered. "Yes," Jisoo said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were clenched into fists. "They are going to try." She contacted Taiwan immediately. They spoke through a secure channel that even Yuna could not access. "How many people can we move?" Jisoo asked. "All of them," Taiwan replied. 12 billion humans across all colonies and stations. It will take 6 months if we begin immediately." It seemed impossible. And yet, humanity had done impossible things before. "Begin the evacuation," Jisoo ordered. "But do it quietly. I want ships moving before the Council realizes what is happening." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Human cargo ships that normally carried goods began carrying something far more precious. Families said goodbye to homes they had lived in for generations. Children were told they were going on a long trip. Nobody was told the full truth. Not yet. It was safer that way. Sergeant Han Dongwoo was responsible for security. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke more than necessary. His job was to make sure no one noticed what was happening until it was too late to stop. "The Rillarans are suspicious," he reported to Jisoo one morning. "They have increased sensor sweeps near the human border zones. Can they see the wormhole anchors?" "Not yet. The anchors are hidden inside asteroids, same as Dr. Choi's laboratory. But if they send ships to investigate, they might notice the energy signatures." Jisoo considered this. Then we need a distraction, something to keep their attention elsewhere. She called a meeting of human leaders. They gathered on a station that served as their secret headquarters. Baek Soo-jin was there, her eyes still carrying the weight of the dead. Lee Min-ho, the chief engineer, was there too, his mind already working on problems that had not yet been asked. "The Council plans to quarantine us," Jisoo told them. "They want to cut us off from the rest of the galaxy. They see us as a threat to be contained." Anger filled the room, but Jisoo raised her hand for silence. "We have a choice. We can fight. We can try to resist and probably die, or we can leave. Go somewhere they cannot follow. Build something new without their permission or their oversight." Soo-jin spoke first. "And what about everything we built here? The stations, the terraformed worlds, the trade routes? We just abandon them?" "No," Jisoo said. A small smile crossed her face. "We do not abandon them. We show them exactly what they are losing. When we leave, everything we built comes with us or shuts down. Let them see what life is like without the humans they took for granted." The room was silent as her words sank in. Then, slowly, heads began to nod. It was not vengeance. It was not cruelty. It was simply truth. If they wanted humanity gone, they would learn what humanity had been holding together all along. "We have 3 months," Jisoo announced. "In 3 months, the Council votes on quarantine. We leave before that vote happens. When they look for us, we will already be gone." The preparation continued. Ships moved through space like ghosts. Families vanished from their homes in the night. The Council saw nothing. They were too busy congratulating themselves on their clever plans. They had no idea what was coming. The day of departure began like any other day. Stars shone in the endless black. Ships moved along their routes. The Council held its meetings and passed its laws. Nobody noticed that the galaxy was about to change forever. Counselor Veth was the first to see the signs. He was reviewing routine reports when something caught his eye. Human shipping had increased by 300% over the past month. Strange. He looked deeper. Human communications had become encrypted in ways that Council technology could not break. Even stranger. And human populations on outer colonies had dropped to zero in some cases. He felt cold fear grip his heart. "Get me a direct line to Captain Jisoo," he demanded. But Captain Jisoo was not taking calls. She was standing on the bridge of the colony ship Horizon's Edge, watching the largest migration in human history unfold before her eyes. Ships filled the space around her. Thousands of them. Then tens of thousands. They came from every corner of human territory. Massive colony ships carrying millions. Small family vessels carrying only a handful. Cargo ships loaded with everything humans had built over 2 centuries of space travel. "All anchor points are active," Lee Minho reported. The engineer had not slept in 3 days, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "The first wave is entering the wormholes now," Jisoo nodded. Through the windows she could see the wormholes themselves. They looked like tears in the fabric of space. Circles of swirling light that led to somewhere impossibly far away. Ships flew into them and vanished. On the other side, 2.5 million light-years away, they emerged into a new galaxy. A new beginning. The Council finally realized what was happening 6 hours after the migration began. By then, 2 billion humans had already departed. Emergency sessions were called. Delegates screamed at each other in languages that the translation network could barely handle. The Morvani demanded military action. The Thalaxians insisted on diplomatic solutions. The Reelerans simply watched in shock as their carefully ordered galaxy fell into chaos. "They cannot do this," the Morvani delegate snarled. "We forbid it." "They are already doing it," Counselor Veth replied quietly. "They did not ask our permission. A communication request came through. It was from Admiral Taiwan. The Council accepted it immediately. It's desperate for answers." Taiwan's face appeared on every screen in the Grand Assembly Hall. He looked calm, almost peaceful. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. "For 200 years, humanity has tried to earn your respect. We built your stations. We cured your plagues. We terraformed your dead worlds. We asked for nothing but to be treated as equals." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You gave us contempt. You gave us restrictions. You planned to imprison us in our own homes. So now we leave. We go somewhere you cannot follow. And we take everything we've built with us." The Thalaxian delegate tried to interrupt. "You cannot simply leave. There are treaties, obligations. You have responsibilities to the galactic community." "We have no community," Taiwan replied. "You made that clear a long time ago." He cut the transmission. The screens went dark, and then the consequences began. The universal translation. Network had been built by human engineers. They were the only ones who fully understood how it worked. When they left, they took that knowledge with them. The network continued to function, but when the first problems appeared, there was no one to fix them. Within weeks, species that had not spoken to each other directly in centuries found themselves unable to communicate. The terraformed worlds were next. Human-designed atmospheric processors required regular maintenance. Without human technicians, they began to fail. On the garden world of Velos Prime, the Rillaran colonists watched in horror as their blue skies slowly turned gray. The air was becoming poisonous. They had 10 years at most before the world became uninhabitable. Medical stations closed. Trade routes collapsed. Ships that had relied on human-maintained navigation beacons drifted off course and were lost. Counselor Veth sent message after message to Captain Jisoo. Most went unanswered. Finally, she responded with a single video. She stood on a platform overlooking a new world. Behind her, human colonists were building homes. Children were playing in grass that had been planted just weeks ago. The sky was orange with the light of a foreign sun. "You asked us to come back," Jisoo said. "You offer us apologies and promises, but we know what your promises are worth. 200 years taught us that." She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were sad, but determined. We did not want this. We wanted to be part of something greater than ourselves, but you'd never let us in. You kept us at arm's length while taking everything we offered. Now you feel what it is like to stand alone." She paused. "We will not return, but we wish you well. Perhaps in another 200 years, you will learn what we tried so hard to teach you, that strength is not about power. It is about building together." The transmission ended. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Counselor Veth sat alone long after the other delegates had left. He remembered his grandfather telling stories about the old days, before the council, before the great alliances. He remembered warnings about pride and arrogance. He had not listened. None of them had listened, and now it was too late. The last human ship passed through the wormhole network at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Behind it, the wormholes collapsed. The pathway to Andromeda closed forever. The galaxy had never felt so empty. 1 year had passed since the humans left. It felt like 100. Counselor Veth walked through the halls of the Grand Assembly. The crystal pillars still rose toward the ceiling of stars. The floating platforms still held delegates from dozens of worlds. But something was missing. Something that could never be replaced. The translation network had failed completely 3 months ago. Now delegates spoke through primitive devices that barely worked. Arguments that once took minutes now took hours, as every word had to be carefully converted from one language to another. The Morvani delegation had left entirely. Their homeworld was dying. The terraforming systems had broken down, and they had no one who knew how to fix them. They had retreated to their original colonies, the ones they had lived on before humans came and gave them paradise. The paradise was turning to dust. Veth took his place at the center of the hall. It was time for his speech. He had spent weeks preparing it. He knew it would change nothing, but it needed to be said. "My fellow council members," he began. His voice echoed in the silence. 1 year ago, we watched humanity leave. We told ourselves it was for the best. We said they were too emotional, too unpredictable, too young to be trusted with responsibility. He paused, looking around at the faces of those who remained. We were wrong. The words hung in the air. Nobody moved. We called them primitive, but they built the machines that let us speak to each other. We called them crude, but they healed our sick when we could not. We called them dangerous, but they were the ones who stood between us and the pirates, the invaders, the chaos at the edges of known space. He felt very old, very tired. We were so certain of our own wisdom that we never noticed we were the ones who needed them. We pushed them away while depending on everything they gave us. And now they are gone, and we are learning what life looks like without them. A Thalaxian delegate spoke up. Its shadow form pulsed with something like anger. Then we rebuild. We learn their technology. We replace what they took. Veth shook his head slowly. We have tried. For 1 year, our best scientists have studied the systems humans built. They cannot understand them. Not fully. The humans did not just build machines. They built relationships. They connected things in ways that only worked because they cared about making them work. We cannot copy that. We do not know how. 2 million light-years away in the Andromeda galaxy, humanity was building a new home. Captain Jisoo stood on a hillside overlooking the first city. It had no name yet. The colonists were still arguing about what to call it. Some wanted to name it after Earth, the homeworld that none of them had ever seen. Others wanted something new, something that looked forward instead of back. She was 73 years old now. Her hair had turned completely white. Her hands sometimes shook when she was tired, but her eyes were still sharp, and her mind was still clear. Yuan Hana walked up to stand beside her. The young translator had become something more than a translator now. She was a historian. She was recording everything that had happened so that future generations would know. The first harvest came in this morning, Hannah said. More than enough to feed everyone with plenty left over. Jisoo nodded. And the atmospheric processors. Working perfectly. Lee Minho says this world will have blue skies within 5 years. Jisoo smiled. Blue skies. Such a simple thing. But it meant everything. Are you happy? Hannah asked suddenly. That we left, I mean. Do you ever regret it? Jisoo thought about the question carefully. She thought about the grand assembly hall and the beautiful cold pillars. She thought about the speeches she had given, the hopes she had carried, the disappointments she had swallowed. I am not happy that we had to leave, she said finally. I wanted us to belong. I spent my whole life trying to make them see us as equals. But that was never their choice to make. We were always equals. We just forgot that for a while. She looked out at the city below. Humans moved through the streets, building, laughing, living. Children played in parks that had been planted only months ago. Somewhere, someone was playing music. This is our home now, Jisoo said. Not because they let us have it, because we built it. With our own hands, on our own terms. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out a small recording device. I'm finishing the historical record tonight, she said. How would you like it to end? Jisoo thought about this. So many things she could say. So many lessons she wanted to share with those who would come after. Tell them that we were never the ones who needed the council, she said. We were the ones holding everything together. Tell them that when we left, we did not leave in anger. We left in sadness. Because we knew what they were losing, even if they did not. She paused, watching the sun set over the new world. Tell them to build. Always build. Not monuments to power or pride, but homes, communities, connections. That is what makes us human. Not our technology, or our weapons, or our short lives. It is our ability to care for each other, even when no one else does. That night, Hannah finished her record. The last words read, "They watched us leave and finally understood. We were never the problem they thought we were. We were the answer to problems they had not yet learned to ask. And now we are gone, building something new among foreign stars. Perhaps one day they will find their way to us. Perhaps they will have learned. Until then, we look forward, not back. We build, we grow, we hope. Because that is what humanity has always done. And that is what we will always do." In the Milky Way, a council probe reached the place where the wormholes had once been. It carried a message of apology, a plea for the humans to return. The probe floated in empty space, broadcasting its message to no one. The silence was the only response.